Hello out there, you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. And this I'm going to be talking about why gaming is important to me. Now, I've come to realize that at certain times I get riled up over things in gaming, possibly to a point where I don't need to, but that's just because it's been an important part of my life for my whole life, pretty much. Outside of my first 2 years of life, actually can't even say my first 2 full years, but I've been playing video games basically since I could walk and hold a controller. So for me, it's been an ingrained part of my life. I grew up with it as a thing that was there. It allowed me to participate in worlds that I just couldn't physically be a part of. It gave me inspiration for a lot of things. I mean, anything could have taken that role for me. It could have been comics, could have been anime, as it was not so much really, we didn't see as much anime in the States during that time period, but there was still anime around at the time. Could have been cartoons, it could have been books, it could have been a number of different things, but gaming is the thing that my imagination really latched to. Even when I was a little kid, back playing Mega Man 3 on the NES, and competently playing this game at the time. No, I didn't beat it when I was a little kid like that, but I was still good at the game. I was still able to make progress in the game. I could beat bosses and make it through stages. I always had the thoughts in my head of well, how could this be better? But not how could this be better, but what would be cool to throw in this game? What other stuff could we put in the game that would make it more cool? That's always how I've thought. Even back when I was a little kid. And I used to stare at game magazines and so just looking at the pictures of all the new games and things that were coming out, because my eldest brother at the time would pick up the magazines and bring them home. He'd read through them and stuff, and when he was done, I'd get my hands on them, and it was legitimately a very big thing for me. It was, again, a place where I could explore my imagination. I could dive into worlds that were more interesting than our own, in a literal sense. On top of that, gaming was a way for me to bridge communications with people. I started that at a very young age. And it allowed me to make friends. For all of the people that say that geeks and stuff back then were very, very unsociable, I'm a living testament to the opposite of that being true. I had actually gained friends back then, male and female, because of video games. Whether I just, stumbled upon someone who had never played a video game before, or I was talking to other kids that had played them back then. It gave me topics for conversation. And yeah, me and my friends spend time back then just brainstorming games. Especially when I got in elementary school, we were just sitting there talking. We would think up, not all the time, obviously. We'd also talk about comic books and things like that, but when it came down to gaming, I always thought up, this would be cool, or did you see this new game that's coming out? Did you see these characters? Did you see the artwork? They look so great and all that stuff. So it was really something that traveled with me. Even when I wasn't playing video games, it was always with me. So I became extremely passionate about video games. So I guess it was one of those things that you take to heart once you involve yourself in something. When it becomes that big for you, it becomes part of you, in a sense. So yeah, like maybe I wasn't privy to all of the negatives of gaming back then, but I was also a sure sign of all of the positive things that come from it. Like, one, gaming helped a lot with my reading because there were so many video games that required a lot of reading. You play a game that has the story driven and all that, like, you're reading that story. And on top of that, I used to love to sit down and read the manuals before I play video games, and that kind of also bled into that, which I really I really miss manuals, but kind of the way the market works today, it's not the most feasible thing. Which sucks, because now we have tutorials that tell you literally everything. It's just kind of like, well, I can't just play and figure some of this stuff out for myself. Or like, yeah, game manuals did give you a lot of information, and they gave you a backstory of a game, but they didn't hold your hand throughout the game. You kind of got the information, and what stuck, and what didn't, and you had to make do on your own. Which was nice, it was cool. But, again, it's a lost art, unfortunately. But just think, and I know I've blown up and ranted many times about different things in gaming. Actually, I have a couple of recent rants dealing with Metroid and Smash. But this is why I can get passionate about it, because it was something that was so ingrained into me. Not by anybody else's choice, it was by my choice. It became the subject that I really wanted to dive into a lot. It was an escape from things that troubled me. It was something that sometimes kept me out of trouble. More times than I can actually count. When there would be situations where I could have gone out and hung out with particular friends that may have not ended so well for me. So it was hardwired to me that gaming is a part of me. And anything that's destructive to it, kind of in a way, is destructive to me. Not literally, because I do know gaming is an option. It's not something I can't live without. It's something I prefer to not live without. But for me, that's and I didn't think about it at the time. I just really like with the Gamergate thing and how much stuff was going down back then. I mean, it's kind of, the argument has kind of fizzled out. But there are still things that are somewhat related to that going on now. But at the time, I was super passionate about what was going on, because gaming was a core part of my life. It had been for a very long time. And then to hear someone say, well, there's no female representation in video games. And I'm like, how many great female characters there were that were designed. I even did a video on a number of great female game developers that had been around long since before this Gamergate stuff went down. Now, a lot of people have different opinions on what started that. My opinion is that it was a distraction from you know, game journalists all working and plotting together with their articles. I mean, the fact that nearly every major gaming outlet during the time came out with a gamers are trash article kind of should have sealed the deal for a lot of people. But everybody focused on the whole Five Guys thing with the girl that was sleeping with the journalist that reviewed her video games. I'm going to leave that one alone. Because that's a clear sign of a, you know, that's a, there's some conflict of interest in that. Whether people would like to admit it or not. And so many people get hung up on that because that was the big thing that a lot of people got into with the, I'm not naming the game, because playing it made me feel so horrible. And I understand, like, I get the purpose of what she was trying to do with the game, but she really didn't teach anything other than when you feel depressed, you're not able to do anything with it. Like, it sucks, and I know that's how people feel, but there's always a way out. There's always a way out that can be positive. It just, sometimes it doesn't show up immediately. But, that said, hearing all of that and how people were bashing people for being gamers or being into gaming, and then describe a gamer in 4 words. And I know one like, and I did a rant on that. I remember it was like, y'all really, really, truly just decided to go bottom of the barrel here against people because their arguments were like, people didn't want to listen to each other's arguments. Everybody just wanted to yell and scream their point. I think that was the biggest problem there. Because, yeah, I know a lot of gamers were saying, well, yeah, there are women that are in gaming. There are great female characters already. There's already a diverse amount of different characters in gaming. You just have to look for them. They're there. They exist. A lot of people didn't know that at the time because they were just brand new and fresh to it. But gaming has been around for a few decades at this point. Several decades at this point. So yes, these characters exist even if people don't know that they do. Or didn't know that they do. When gaming kind of went mainstream, that meant a lot of new people got into it but didn't look up or try to learn anything about the history of gaming. So, yeah, I was quite passionate about that. And it's one of those things that, yeah, like, gaming was majorly important to me. And hearing people say, oh, you're stupid, or this is, and yes, I know I use those words a lot, but it's just people saying that someone is stupid for their hobby, for their pastime that they enjoy is, like, redundant to me. Now, saying someone's stupid because they make a stupid choice or say something that is stupid, that's different. So, use cases are different. But it was just like, wow, I'm this bad person because I play video games. And that just didn't make any sense. Like, I'm horrible because I play video games. Not to mention that video games have been proven to help people with hand and eye coordination, with their ability, their timing skills, a lot of different things that require someone's twitch reflexes and twitch muscles. Gaming complements. And it can be used therapeutically depending upon the situation. And I know I've been sidetracked for a minute. I'll get back to the main purpose. But I wanted to cover these notions, these topics really quickly. Look, like saying that someone is lesser than because of something that they decide to do that you just don't have interest in, that's redundant. It's ridiculous. And I can describe a gamer in 4 words thing. I remember how that made my blood boil. But it's the same thing as when it came down to me having any sort of relationships with anyone. I enjoyed sharing my passion and my hobby with other people, introducing them to it if they've never really been into it in the first place, or maybe only had some minor, some minor history with it. Like maybe they played Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo back in the game day and hadn't touched anything since then. I enjoyed sharing that with people because it was a passion of mine and I could see a lot of good coming from it. And it was almost one of those things that always was good for me because it was something it was a tool you could use to communicate with someone. But like if there was tension or such, you could play a video game and break that because it could distract you for a moment and you could have something other to talk about other than what's causing you trouble. So it for me, it was therapy for me because there were times where I was agitated about things and playing a video game helped me clear that. And again, like I said, it kept me out of trouble. And it also helped me bridge gaps with people that may have never been my friends in the first place back then. So for me, there were a lot of advantages to gaming. It became integral to me. So when I see somebody on a whole bashing the concept of being a gamer, or with the things that I understand now much better than I did back then, I hear people bashing this or that. Like, instead of bashing a company's bad practices, they'll bash people that play the games. Granted, there are times where I do wish people would stick to their guns, and if they're going to boycott something, they actually do it. Instead of calling for a boycott with a bunch of people calling for a boycott and then it doesn't happen. But that aside, it's been helpful in my life. There are times where I just struggled with issues that I didn't even know I had, and I just couldn't figure them out. And sometimes popping a video game in pulled me out of that moment. So I guess it's to say I do get a little bit defensive about video games. As I said, it's been something that's been a part of my life my whole life. It's not like it was some small blip on a map of things for me. It was majorly important to me. From playing Excite Bike when I couldn't remember it, up to now, gaming has always been there. It's always been something I have put myself into. And it's always been something I've taken things from. Whether people would like to believe it or not, there are some great lessons to be learned from video games that just might not resonate with you any other way. I guess that's why I've always... it's one of the things that I am touchy about. It is a subject I am personally touchy about. Not because I don't want people to enjoy it or whatever. It's just like I've seen so many people say very many illogical things when it pertains to gaming. And I'm like, that's a bad take. That's a horribly bad take. Yeah, I've had some bad takes myself, but I don't think mine have been to the point where you could question my sanity. Though people probably should. No, that's a joke. That's a joke. But I guess with all of my rambling, what I'm trying to say is gaming has been important for me because it's been a platform on which I can stand and make connections and build upon. It's been a platform that has helped me through troubling times. It's been a platform that has kept me here mentally and other ways. So that's why it's important to me. That's why I think I get passionate and sometimes highly irritated when I hear and see things that I know just don't make any sense. So I'm like, it's kind of like somebody who's been following any particular subject all of their life, like science. Say somebody's been following endocrinology all their lives, and then they hear somebody say something that's just so ridiculous. And it doesn't make sense because that's not how things have worked or ever will work. And that's where my mind goes. But since I am running out of really things to really say about this subject, I'm going to call for action for the members of the Winging It crew to go ahead and do their own videos on why gaming is important to them. So Jay, Shadow, Jack, y'all on the hook. And I'm also going to throw in 2 more people, Sam Storm and Vicky Fangirl Review. Y'all also on the hook. So let's see if we can get something out of this and ask people why gaming is important to them and call for other people to do the same. But that's it for me. Thank you guys very much for listening to me stumble about through this. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. Until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody.